Good morning, everyone. On this Memorial Day, we pause as a nation to honor the brave men and women who gave their lives in service. All gave some, and
I gotta go
some
back up. I
gave
got more to do.
all. Every Memorial Day, I think about a special person in my life, Albert, Neil Albert Denning. And I'll tell you the story about Neil. Neil was born and raised here in Willow Springs. Neil was a Marine. In 1964 and 65, Neil joined the Marines and came to a class that I was in at Old Fuquay Consolidated High School. Mr. Leroy Burton, who was our instructor, wanted us to meet a special guest. Neil came to the class in his Marine uniform and he stood proudly and he talked to us about the possibilities and what we could do in regards to going into the service and the advantages that it would have for us in regards to allowing us to go on to college. Neil talked about hope. He talked about how important it is for a man to give the best of his service. After Neil left, I won't ever forget it. About 6 months later, we got a call over the intercom early in the morning. Mr. Freeman, Bill Freeman, was the principal, and he told us that Neil had been killed in action in Vietnam. Later on, we got the message that, of course, Neil would have the honor ceremony, and as a young man, 16 years old, who played in the band, I was asked and charged to play taps at Neil's ceremony. At that particular point, that's when the reality of war came to me as a young man, because I remember Neil, I remember the example that he set, and for me, I was ever connected to his story by playing taps at his memorial service. It was very moving. I will never forget about what he did, what he encouraged us to do, and the sacrifice that he made on that particular day. I'd like to acknowledge our town commissioners here. We have Commissioner Charlie Adcock, Commissioner Chris Voren, and Commissioner Brian Haynes. Thank you all so much for attending. Memory, Cicero, the great statesman, said that memory is treasury and guardian of all things. Memorial Day is more than the official or unofficial start of summer. It is one of our nation's most sacred days of remembrance. It is a day set aside to honor the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces who gave their lives in defense of our freedoms, our democracy, and the ideals that define America. Today, across our country, flags fly at half staff, families visit cemeteries, and communities such as ours pause in gratitude. We remember the young soldier who never returned home, the sailor lost at sea, the airman who made the ultimate sacrifice, and the Marine who stood courageously in harm's way. The Coast Guardsmen who answered the call without hesitation. They came from small towns like Fuquay Varina and big cities, from every background and every walk of life, untied by duty, honor, and love of country. Behind every name engraved on a monument is a story, a family, a dream, a future left unfinished so that ours could continue today. Behind every flag wavering behind me, proudly in the breeze is the story of someone who answered the call to serve and never returned home. As we honor the fallen today, we must remember the families they left behind. The Gold Star families whose sacrifice continues long after the final salute. Their strength and resilience deserve our deepest gratitude. As mayor, I often reflect on how fortunate we are to live in a community like Fuquay Varina, a town where patriotism is not just spoken, but lived. We see it in our veterans, our military families, our first responders, our civic organizations, and citizens who quietly serve others every day. That spirit of service is also why Rotary matters so much. Rotarians understand that strong communities are built when people choose compassion over comfort, service over self-interest, and unity over division. In many ways, that same spirit reflects the values of those we honor today: sacrifice, commitment, and dedication to something greater than oneself. Memorial Day also reminds us that freedom is never free. The liberties we enjoy, to gather openly, to worship freely, to speak our minds, and to participate in democracy, were preserved through a tremendous sacrifice. Our responsibility is not only to remember the fallen, but to live in a way that honors them. So today, let us recommit ourselves to the ideas of freedom, justice, and democracy to ensure that sacrifice endures from generations to come. Let us teach the next generation the true meaning of this day. Let us ensure that the stories of courage, sacrifice, and service are never, never forgotten. Let this occasion be used to inspire us to appreciate what we have and how willing those who came before us risk it all to protect this heritage of freedom that we celebrate today. What can we do then to honor them, to keep their memory alive? We can continuously to strengthen our communities. We can care for one another. We can serve in our respective duties with integrity. And no less than that, we can strive to leave this community and leave this nation better than we found it. So as we enjoy time with family and friends this Memorial Day, may we also pause for reflection and gratitude. May we never forget those who gave everything for our country. And may we continue working together through organizations like the Rotary and through communities like ours to build a nation worthy of their sacrifice. Thank you very much. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Harris, for your kind and inspiring words. We appreciate your dedication to our community and to all who serve our community. A little stuck together here. Carrie's going to introduce our guest speaker.
Our guest speaker this morning is Scott Quilty. Scott Quilty served with the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division as a Ranger Qualified Infantry Captain. He fought and was wounded in Iraq in 2006. Scott left the Army to start a family here in Fuquay-Varina. Scott is a past board chair of the Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce, the state's fastest growing chamber, and a past commander of Fuquay's own American Legion Post 116, the largest American Legion post in North Carolina. Please help me welcome Scott Quilty.
I was told you could hear me. Can you hear me? Need a microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
How's this thing work?
Thank you for that warm introduction. And I want to take a moment and stand and recognize Mr. Marvin Smith, a World War II veteran that is in our company today. Please stand and let's recognize Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for your service. Thank you to the representatives from my post, American Legion Post 116, for being in attendance and for serving as our color guard. Thank you to the Fuquay-Varina Rotary Club for hosting this remembrance every year. Thank you to Pat and Bob Barker, the Barker family and the Bob Barker Company for opening their venue to us for this event. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your kind words. This long weekend marks the start of summer for backyard barbecues, of road trips and baseball games, catching fireflies, cool nights listening to the rain on the back porch or here right now, and lazy strolls through the neighborhood. But as we do all that on this Memorial Day, it's important to pause and reflect on those men and women who are not able to be with us today. And it is for those individuals, those who have given their lives while wearing our nation's uniform, that we have set aside Memorial Day, a day to remember their sacrifices. We called them brothers and sisters, parents and grandparents, sons, daughters, and friends. They each had a story that ended too soon. I believe that when we recall their stories, they live on with us. What they taught us can continue to guide us, and what they stood for can remain with us, with our children and our grandchildren. Take a moment with me now and remember the sacrifices of two soldiers that I had the privilege of calling friend. Private First Class Danny Dewfield and Captain Benjamin Keating. Private First Class Danny Dewfield was from my home state of New Hampshire. We grew up around an hour apart from each other. When I got to my first platoon, we found that we knew some of the same people and some of the same places. Danny was one of my machine gunners, which meant that he was built bigger than most of his platoon mates, so he could help lug around the machine gun and tripod and ammunition. As hard as his job was, he took joy from being around his teammates, and he always wore a smile on his face. He was helpful, kind-hearted, cheerful, regardless of how hard it rained or how hot he got while it trained. We deployed to Iraq in 2006, 20 years ago this August, found ourselves in the middle of a fight between Iraqis and a whole host of foreign fighters. Danny saw the horrors of war. He had close calls. He looked into the eyes of the enemy, and he made it home without a scratch. Or so we thought. After returning home, Danny struggled. He was haunted by what he saw and experienced. And while he made it home from war without a physical scratch, he was invisibly scarred. And his story ended tragically when he took his own life. Danny survived the war in Iraq only to lose the war within. Another soldier and friend who I remember each Memorial Day is Captain Benjamin Keating. Ben and I were roommates together in college. We were cadets together in ROTC. Ben was reserved. He was kind and he was compassionate. He was born and raised in Shapley, Maine. He served as our cadet chaplain, always opening and closing special occasions and heartfelt prayer. When a cadet was struggling with life or with school, they often talked to Ben about it. Ben and I prepared for war together. We both had our chance to lead in combat. He fought in Afghanistan at the same time that I fought in Iraq, both with the 10th Mountain Division. One day, Ben was tasked with moving a large tactical vehicle between remote bases in Nuristan province along a narrow mountain pass. Ben knew it was dangerous. He had already been recognized for valor in contact with the enemy in that same area. He also knew the road might not support the weight of the vehicle, which is why he got behind the wheel himself and told his soldiers to dismount. Ben's non-commissioned officer would not let him ride alone, despite orders to the contrary. Non-commissioned officer would not let him ride alone, despite orders to the contrary. The active duty and retired NCOs listening right now know why. A good NCO will never leave the side of a good officer when the stakes are high. That small detail of this story speaks volumes about the character of both men in the vehicle that day. When Ben came to the narrowest section of the road, it gave way, and the vehicle tumbled hundreds of feet towards a raging river. Ben and his NCO were grievously injured. It took hours for their team to rappel down, render aid, and ready them for evacuation to a nearby field hospital. His wounds were severe. Ben refused to be evacuated before his NCO. Ben took his last breath on the medevac. The NCO was able to make a full recovery. No other soldiers were injured that day. Ben made a tremendous sacrifice. He took on risk himself by getting behind the wheel. rather than seeing one of his soldiers take on that risk. And he gave even more when he made certain his NCO was the first to receive aid. Of the cadets who served with Ben, many have gone on to have children of our own. Many of them bear the name Ben as either a first or middle name, including my own son, Ian Benjamin Quilty, in the audience today. That is why this kind of ceremony in reflection of Memorial Day as we begin summer is so important. When we retell these stories of Danny and Ben and Neil, we remember what they taught us in life and in death. We remember that they taught us to reach for help when we're in need, to always keep a watchful eye of the strongest among us, to make sure they're doing okay, and never expect something of our teams that we're not willing to do ourselves. I know many of you here today have your own stories of service and loss and lessons you learned from those people. I encourage you to keep telling those stories, keep sharing those stories with your children and grandchildren, and keep the service members that have made the ultimate sacrifice in your thoughts and prayers today and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, for your service and for honoring the memories of your fellow soldiers. At this time, please join us as we recognize and remember our heroes who fell in service to our country by reading their names.
Linwood S. Ashworth, U.S. Navy, Seaman First Class, KIA 1945, World War II. Norman Barbour, U.S. Navy, Seaman First Class, World War II. Melvin C. Beckwith, U.S. Army, Sergeant, World War II, KIA 1951, Korea. Kenneth G. Burlock, Jr., U.S. Army, SPC, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, KIA 17 September 1969, Lao Chau, Vietnam. Charles Allen Collins, U.S. Army, SPC, Purple Heart, KIA 1965, Vietnam. Danny Duffield, U.S. Army, PFC, Afghanistan. Robert F. Elderby, U.S. Marines, LCPR, KIA, 7 June 1967, Quang Tri, Vietnam. Alden Brown Fish, Jr., U.S. Navy, QTI, August 24th, 1986. Darren T. Hicks, U.S. Army, Corporal, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, KIA, July 19, 2012, Afghanistan. Benjamin H. Joyner, U.S. Army, KIA, 1944, World War II. Ben Keating, U.S. Army, Captain, Afghanistan.
Okay, can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. This is in memory of Stephen Lee Mace, U.S. Army, SPC, 4th Infantry Division, KIA, October 3rd, 2009, Afghanistan. Angel Menendez, U.S. Marine, Sergeant, KIA, Vietnam. Nick Noski, U.S. Marine, Sergeant, Force Recon, killed in action 22 September 1967, Vietnam. Henry A. Parkhurst, U.S. Army, First Lieutenant, KIA, 1965, Vietnam. Raymond Jasper Parton, U.S. Army, Private, KIA, 1918, World War I. Clifton Lewis Poole, U.S. Army, Private First Class, KIA, 1972, Vietnam. Michael H. Olis, U.S. Army, Staff Sergeant Duty, KIA, Afghanistan. Andrew P. Ross, U.S. Army Captain, 3rd Special Forces Group, killed in action November 27, 2018. Norman E. Sudacum, U.S. Marine Corps Captain, killed in action 1965, Vietnam. John L. Trawick, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, Bronze Star, Vietnam. Harvey Joseph Tompkinson, KIA, 1968, Vietnam.
Please stand as you are able as the American Legion Honor Guard fires a 21-gun salute to honor our fallen heroes and remain standing for the playing of the taps. The Band of Patriots will now perform the Armed Forces Service songs. You are welcome to stand to honor the memory of your personal fallen heroes from any branch of service, or to remember your fellow service members from your branch of service. Coast Guard. Air Force. Who? That's